Karma and Reincarnation. Part 1. Karma Explained. Cosmic Justice or Something Deeper. Karma is one of those words that many people recognize, yet it carries different meanings depending on the cultural, spiritual, or personal lens through which it is viewed. At its core, karma is often described as the principle that actions have consequences, not only in a moral sense but in a cosmic one. This idea has been embraced in various traditions, particularly within Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Yet it has also entered the language of everyday life, where people casually speak of good karma or bad karma. While it may be tempting to see karma as nothing more than a cosmic justice system keeping score of deeds, the concept in its deeper forms reveals something far more nuanced, complex, and tied to the very fabric of existence. In many philosophical traditions, karma is not understood as divine punishment or reward, but rather as a law of cause and effect woven into reality itself. Just as gravity operates without judgment or favoritism, karma too is seen as a natural law that arises from the interconnectedness of life. Every action, whether physical, verbal, or even mental, plants a seed that eventually bears fruit. That fruit may manifest in this lifetime or in another, depending on the circumstances and readiness of conditions. This view removes the image of an overseeing judge and replaces it with the idea that existence itself is the judge, jury, and executioner of our own deeds. It is not external beings who punish or reward, but the self that experiences the ripples of its own actions. The moral and spiritual depth of karma lies in its insistence that every choice matters. A harsh word, an act of kindness, or even a fleeting thought may have consequences beyond what we can see in the moment. This can be empowering, for it suggests that individuals are not helpless in the face of destiny, but are continuously shaping their reality through the quality of their intentions and actions. At the same time, it can feel daunting because it means responsibility extends beyond the obvious. Unlike human justice systems that focus mainly on visible behaviors, karma includes the subtler layers of intention and motivation. Thus, two people may perform the same outward act, but the karmic imprint may differ entirely depending on the inner state behind it. Another critical element in understanding karma is that it is not only about individual repercussions, but also about the web of interconnectedness. The ripple effect of one action may influence countless others, and this interconnectedness means that the boundaries between personal and collective karma can blur. In Hindu and Buddhist thought, for instance, entire groups, nations, or even worlds can carry shared karma, manifesting as historical events, cultural patterns, or natural occurrences. This sense of shared destiny underscores the idea that no action exists in isolation. What we do affects others, and what others do affects us, creating a vast tapestry of interlinked consequences. Such an understanding moves karma away from being just about personal gain or loss, and toward a vision of universal responsibility. The common interpretation of karma as immediate punishment or reward can be misleading, yet it also reflects a natural human desire for fairness. People often expect that if someone does wrong, misfortune should follow quickly, and if someone lives kindly, blessing should appear without delay. While karmic consequences can indeed manifest in this life, they are not bound by time in the way human justice is. In traditions that include reincarnation, karma may take lifetimes to unfold, with seeds lying dormant until conditions allow them to ripen. This long view challenges the assumption that the world should always appear just in the moment. Instead, it offers the perspective that justice exists, but on a cosmic timescale that far exceeds human patience. In its deeper sense, karma is less about justice and more about learning. The idea is that experiences arising from karmic seeds are not simply rewards or punishments, but opportunities for growth, understanding, and transformation. A difficult life event may be painful, but through the lens of karma, it can be seen as a chance to confront patterns, cultivate resilience, or develop compassion. Similarly, fortunate circumstances may bring joy, but also test one's humility and sense of responsibility. In this way, karma becomes an ongoing teacher, guiding individuals toward greater awareness and ultimately liberation from the cycles of ignorance and suffering that bind existence. Philosophers and spiritual teachers often stress that karma should not be seen fatalistically. It is not a rigid destiny where every detail of life is predetermined by past actions. Rather, it is a dynamic interplay between past seeds and present choices. A person may inherit tendencies or conditions from previous actions, but how they respond to these conditions shapes the future. This is why many traditions emphasize mindfulness and conscious living. By becoming aware of the seeds we are planting in each moment, we gain the power to influence the direction of our lives. Instead of being trapped by the weight of the past, we are invited to become gardeners of the present. A striking aspect of karma is how it bridges the personal and the universal. On the one hand, it speaks to deeply individual concerns. Why am I experiencing this? Why is my life unfolding this way? On the other hand, it points to the vastness of interconnected life, reminding us that personal actions are never entirely personal. This dual nature invites both self-reflection and compassion. Recognizing that we are all subject to the same law of cause and effect, we can cultivate empathy for others, struggles, and avoid harsh judgment. It also encourages ethical behavior, not out of fear of punishment, but out of recognition that kindness and integrity naturally lead to harmony for both oneself and the collective whole. The concept of karma has often been misunderstood in the West, where it sometimes gets reduced to a slogan or a casual remark about someone getting what they deserve. While this popular use has some truth in it, it misses the profound philosophical and ethical dimensions of the idea. Karma is not merely about quick retribution, but about the subtle unfolding of causes and effects that may span vast stretches of time and space. It is not about divine bookkeeping, but about the self-regulating fabric of reality. And perhaps most importantly, it is not about punishment, but about growth, urging each being to awaken to the consequences of their choices and to take responsibility for shaping their path toward freedom. To see karma in this deeper sense is to realize that it is not simply cosmic justice, but a mirror reflecting the very structure of existence. It reminds us that everything we do, think, and intend leaves an imprint, that life is not random but meaningful, and that we have the agency to change its course. This realization can be both sobering and liberating. It challenges complacency, asking us to become more conscious, but it also empowers us, assuring that every moment holds the potential to plant seeds of clarity, compassion, and wisdom. In this way, karma is not just an ancient doctrine, but an invitation to live more intentionally and authentically, shaping not only our destiny, but also the collective journey of all beings. Thus, karma is far more than cosmic justice. It is a profound principle of interconnected causality, a guide for ethical living, and a pathway for personal and spiritual evolution. It is the echo of our intentions reverberating through the universe, urging us to live in harmony with ourselves and with others, and to recognize that we are both authors and heirs of the reality we inhabit. Part 2. The Subtle Body. What reincarnates after death? When people speak of reincarnation, the central question that arises is what exactly passes from one life to another. Clearly the physical body does not, for it is left behind at death and returns to the earth. What remains, according to many traditions, is something often described as the subtle body, or a deeper essence that carries impressions, tendencies, and karmic seeds. This subtle body is not usually thought of as material in the way the physical body is, yet it is also not considered identical with the ultimate soul or pure consciousness. Instead, it serves as a kind of bridge, a vehicle of continuity that allows personal identity, experiences, and karmic patterns to move across the boundary of death and into a new existence. The notion of the subtle body has appeared in numerous cultures, though it is most elaborately articulated in Indian philosophy. In Hinduism, this concept is sometimes referred to as the Sukshma Sharira, which translates as the subtle body, contrasted with the gross physical body, or Sthula Sharira. This subtle body is said to contain the mind, the senses, and the storehouse of impressions formed by actions and experiences. At death, when the physical body is shed, the subtle body departs with the soul, carrying within it the accumulated tendencies and karmic residues that shape the next incarnation. In this way, reincarnation is not the literal rebirth of the body we see, but the continuation of an underlying pattern carried forward by an unseen vehicle. In Buddhist traditions, which often avoid speaking of a permanent soul, the subtle body can be thought of as a stream of consciousness that moves from life to life. This stream carries within it the imprints of past deeds, much like a river carries sediments downstream. The Buddha rejected the idea of an eternal, unchanging self, yet he acknowledged that the chain of cause and effect must continue beyond death if karma is to bear fruit in future lives. The subtle continuity of consciousness fulfills this role, preserving the karmic seeds and ensuring that actions do not vanish into nothingness. Thus, while the Buddhist view does not affirm a soul, it nonetheless affirms a subtle form of continuity, one that makes reincarnation intelligible. The subtle body is sometimes described as being composed of energies rather than matter, and many traditions link it to the idea of chakras or energy centers. Within this framework, the subtle body is seen as the matrix of life force, consciousness, and subtle impressions. These energies persist even after the physical form dissolves, providing the momentum that drives the being toward another birth. This perspective allows for a more refined understanding of what reincarnates, not simply a vague spirit, but a structured energetic system that preserves the blueprint of character, tendencies, and unresolved lessons. The new physical body that is eventually taken on becomes shaped and influenced by this subtle body, much like a seed contains the pattern of the tree it will grow into. The idea of the subtle body helps resolve a paradox that arises in the discussion of reincarnation. On one hand, if there is no continuity at all, then reincarnation would make no sense, for nothing would pass forward. On the other hand, if the same complete self carried forward intact, then one could argue there would be no real change or growth. The subtle body stands in between these extremes, providing continuity without total permanence. It carries the threads of past lives, but also allows for transformation, adaptation, and the weaving of new patterns. In this way, it offers a dynamic model for understanding how one can be both the same and yet not the same across lifetimes. Different philosophies emphasize different aspects of the subtle body, but many agree on the idea that it is the vessel for karmic imprints. Just as memory stores information in the brain during a single lifetime, the subtle body is said to store impressions that survive the dissolution of the brain and body. These impressions shape the circumstances of the next life, influencing not only broad conditions like health or environment, but also subtler traits such as inclinations, fears, talents, or longings. This continuity explains, for example, why some individuals appear to possess knowledge or tendencies without any clear source in their current life. Such features are often interpreted as echoes from the karmic past, carried forward by the subtle body. In some traditions, the subtle body is described as passing through intermediate states between lives. Tibetan Buddhism, for instance, speaks of the bardo, a transitional state after death, where the consciousness continues before taking a new birth. During this state, the subtle body carries karmic imprints and experiences visions shaped by the mind. The choices or tendencies expressed in the bardo influence the circumstances of the next incarnation. This teaching emphasizes the importance of mental clarity and spiritual practice, since the state of mind at death profoundly affects the journey of the subtle body and its future embodiment. In this way, the subtle body is not passive, but actively shapes its own trajectory. From a symbolic perspective, the subtle body can also be seen as the narrative thread of a being's existence. Just as a story continues from chapter to chapter, the subtle body carries the storyline across lifetimes. Each life adds experiences, challenges, and growth, but the underlying character develops through the accumulation of all these chapters. This helps make sense of reincarnation not as random rebirth, but as a coherent process of learning and unfolding. The subtle body thus acts as both a recorder and a teacher, ensuring that lessons are not lost even if the conscious memory of past lives is veiled. The philosophical implications of the subtle body raise interesting questions about identity. If what reincarnates is not the exact same person, but a continuity of tendencies and karmic seeds, then what does it mean to say, I was a past figure? Some traditions answer that the I of today is not identical to the I of yesterday, even within the same lifetime. Just as we change from childhood to adulthood, so too does the subtle body change across lifetimes. The link is continuity rather than sameness. This understanding loosens the rigid attachment to identity and opens the door to seeing the self as a process rather than a fixed entity, a flow that transcends a single lifetime. The role of the subtle body also highlights why spiritual practices often emphasize purification and awareness. By cultivating compassion, clarity, and wisdom, one refines the subtle body, planting seeds that will bear more harmonious fruit in future lives. Conversely, by indulging in harmful tendencies, one burdens the subtle body with imprints that perpetuate suffering. In this sense, the subtle body is like a traveler's bag carried from life to life, filled with the contents of choices and actions. Each moment presents an opportunity to decide what we wish to carry forward and what we wish to leave behind. Although the language of subtle bodies, energy centers, or streams of consciousness may seem foreign to a modern materialist worldview, the idea resonates with the human intuition that something essential survives death. The subtle body provides a framework that honors this intuition, while offering a philosophical explanation of how continuity without permanence can exist. Whether one interprets it literally or metaphorically, the concept points to the importance of inner life, of thoughts and intentions as much as deeds, and of the unseen layers of being that shape destiny. It suggests that what truly moves from one life to another is not the surface details of identity, but the deeper currents of mind, character, and karmic momentum. Ultimately, the subtle body answers the question of what reincarnates after death by offering a middle path between the extremes of eternal identity and total annihilation. It is the vehicle of continuity, carrying the karmic seeds and impressions that ensure the unfolding of the cosmic law of cause and effect. At the same time, it allows for change and transformation, making each life both a continuation of the past and an opportunity for renewal. In this way, The subtle body serves as the hidden thread, weaving the fabric of existence across lifetimes, reminding us that death is not an end, but a transition and a journey far greater than any single incarnation. Part 3. Past Lives, Present Patterns. How your soul carries its story. The idea of past lives has fascinated human beings for millennia, arising in different cultures with strikingly similar themes. Central to this belief is the notion that the soul, or a subtle continuity of consciousness, does not vanish at death, but continues its journey into new bodies and circumstances. Within this journey, the soul is said to carry with it patterns formed by experiences across lifetimes. These patterns are not always remembered consciously, but they are believed to manifest in tendencies, inclinations, fears, talents, and even in the circumstances one encounters. Thus, while our conscious memory may begin at birth, the deeper layers of our being tell a much older story, one shaped by countless lifetimes of learning and experience. One of the ways past lives are thought to influence the present is through unexplainable affinities or aversions. A person may feel an instant connection to a particular place, culture, or activity without ever having encountered it before in this life. Similarly, someone may harbor a deep fear or resistance that seems to have no roots in their present experiences. Such phenomena are often interpreted as echoes from past incarnations. These impressions, carried forward by the subtle body, create patterns that shape how individuals engage with the world. They may not be consciously understood, but they are deeply felt, guiding choices and responses in ways that seem both mysterious and familiar. Another expression of past life influence is found in innate abilities and talents. Throughout history, individuals have exhibited extraordinary skills at a young age, from prodigies in music and mathematics to gifted healers and artists. While some of this can be explained through genetics or environment, many traditions interpret such gifts as the fruits of past practice carried over from previous lives. According to this view, no effort is ever lost. Skills and qualities cultivated in one lifetime are stored in the subtle body and may resurface in future incarnations, providing continuity and depth to the soul's ongoing story. These gifts are seen not merely as accidents, but as markers of the long arc of growth that transcends a single lifetime. Karmic relationships are another way the narrative of past lives unfolds in the present. Encounters with certain individuals may feel charged with intensity, whether of attraction, conflict, or profound familiarity. Such connections are sometimes explained as karmic bonds formed in earlier incarnations. A relationship of love, betrayal, or unresolved tension may resurface in a new life, offering both individuals a chance to work through unfinished patterns. This perspective suggests that human connections are rarely random. They are part of a larger tapestry of intertwined destinies. By recognizing the depth of these bonds, one can approach them not just as present events, but as opportunities to heal, complete, or deepen stories that began long before. The soul's story also reveals itself through repeating life circumstances. Some people find themselves facing the same types of challenges over and over again, whether in relationships, health, or career. This repetition may be frustrating, but within the framework of reincarnation, it is understood as the unfolding of karmic lessons. Until the underlying pattern is recognized and transformed, the same themes may continue to reappear across lifetimes. For example, a person who struggled with power in one life may find themselves facing similar issues again, giving them the opportunity to approach the challenge with greater awareness. In this way, the present is not isolated from the past, but is a continuation of a larger process of learning and growth. Memory of past lives is usually veiled, yet there are traditions and practices aimed at unveiling glimpses of this deeper story. In some cultures, children are known to spontaneously recall details of previous lives, sometimes with startling accuracy. In modern times, practices such as past life regression attempt to access these memories through altered states of consciousness. Whether one accepts these accounts as literal or symbolic, they reveal the profound impact of the idea that our souls carry an ancient story. Even symbolic interpretations point to the way the unconscious mind holds patterns that may feel older than the present life. The act of uncovering these patterns can bring healing, insight, and a greater sense of purpose. The concept of past lives also highlights the continuity of moral and spiritual development. Just as a student progresses through different grades in school, the soul is said to progress through different experiences across lifetimes. Some lives may be focused on cultivating compassion, others on courage, wisdom, or humility. Failures are not wasted, for they become the ground from which new understanding emerges. Successes, too, are not final, for they create responsibilities that must be carried forward. In this sense, reincarnation portrays life as a school without end, where each incarnation is a classroom and each soul is a student working toward greater realization. The influence of past lives does not negate free will, but interacts with it in complex ways. A person may enter a life with certain tendencies and circumstances shaped by past actions, but how they respond to these influences remains their choice. This interplay between inherited patterns and present decisions creates a dynamic field of possibility. Even deeply ingrained karmic patterns can be transformed through awareness and conscious effort. Thus, while the soul may carry its story forward, it also has the ability to write new chapters, to change the trajectory of its journey through intentional living and spiritual practice. Understanding life in terms of past and present continuity also fosters compassion for oneself and others. Recognizing that struggles may have roots beyond the visible life allows for a gentler perspective. Instead of judging oneself harshly for repeated difficulties, one can see them as part of a longer story, opportunities for learning that extend beyond one lifetime. Similarly, recognizing that others are also carrying their own deep stories can inspire empathy and patience. Each soul is engaged in a complex journey shaped by countless past experiences, and each encounter offers the chance to support one another in the process of growth. The narrative of past lives influencing the present also challenges purely materialist notions of identity. If we are not only the sum of our genetic inheritance and current experiences, but also the inheritors of a deeper karmic history, then identity becomes both more expansive and more mysterious. We are not only who we are today, but also the bearers of ancient threads of experience woven into our being. This perspective expands the sense of self beyond the boundaries of one lifetime, encouraging us to live with greater depth, responsibility, and awareness of the long journey of the soul. In a symbolic sense, the idea of past lives can also be interpreted as the inheritance of collective human experience. Even if one does not accept literal reincarnation, it is undeniable that each individual carries patterns shaped by culture, history, and ancestry. These too can be seen as past lives in a broader sense, stories inherited through the collective journey of humanity. The concept of reincarnation thus serves not only as a metaphysical teaching, but also as a metaphor for the continuity of human experience across generations. By exploring our patterns, whether personal or collective, we come closer to understanding the deeper story we are part of. Ultimately, the belief that the soul carries its story across lifetimes is both humbling and empowering. It is humbling because it reminds us that we are part of a much larger process, one that transcends our limited view of a single lifetime. It is empowering because it assures us that every effort matters, every lesson learned contributes to the growth of the soul, and no experience is wasted. The patterns we carry are not prisons, but invitations to greater freedom, each life offering the chance to deepen our understanding and to align more fully with wisdom and compassion. Thus, past lives reveal themselves not only as memories of distant existences, but as living patterns shaping our present experience. Through affinities, talents, relationships, challenges, and inner tendencies, the soul's story continues to unfold, carrying the threads of the past into the fabric of today. By recognizing and working with these patterns, we participate consciously in this ongoing story, transforming inherited lessons into opportunities for growth and writing new chapters for the journey yet to come. Part 4. Breaking the Cycle. Is moksha freedom from rebirth? The concept of moksha, often translated as liberation, is central to the philosophical traditions that discuss karma and reincarnation. While karma explains the continuity of actions and their consequences across lifetimes, and reincarnation provides the mechanism for that continuity, moksha represents the final release from this cycle altogether. To understand moksha is to ask whether freedom from rebirth is possible, and if so, what that freedom actually means. It is not simply the escape from suffering or worldly troubles, but the profound realization of the self's true nature, beyond the limitations of body, mind, and ego. Moksha is seen as the ultimate goal of human existence, the point at which the cycle of birth and death, called samsara, comes to an end. Samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, is depicted as a wheel endlessly turning, propelled by the force of karma. Each action, thought, and intention plants seeds that eventually ripen, ensuring that the soul or stream of consciousness continues to take new forms. While life contains moments of joy and beauty, samsara is ultimately marked by impermanence, struggle, and dissatisfaction. This is why liberation is described as release not only from rebirth, but from the very conditions that create bondage. In this view, moksha is not a denial of life, but a transcendence of the conditions that keep beings bound to cycles of repeated existence, offering a state of timeless peace and realization. Different traditions articulate moksha in distinct ways, but all converge on the idea of freedom. In Hindu thought, moksha is often described as the realization of the unity of the individual self, or atman with the ultimate reality, or Brahman. This realization dissolves the illusion of separateness, which is seen as the root cause of bondage. In Buddhism, while the language of an eternal soul is avoided, liberation, called nirvana, refers to the extinguishing of ignorance and desire that perpetuate the cycle of rebirth. Jainism emphasizes the purification of the soul from karmic matter, allowing it to rise to its natural state of infinite knowledge and bliss. In each case, moksha is freedom, not merely from the external cycle of births, but from the inner chains of ignorance, attachment, and delusion. One of the central questions in discussing moksha is whether freedom from rebirth means ceasing to exist or realizing a deeper form of existence. To those unfamiliar with these teachings, liberation may sound like annihilation, the disappearance of individuality into a void. Yet the traditions themselves often describe moksha not as nothingness but as fullness, a state of pure being, consciousness, and bliss, Rather than losing reality, one awakens to reality's truest essence, beyond the distortions created by ego and ignorance. Thus, moksha is not the end of existence, but the unveiling of its most profound truth, a truth no longer confined by the limitations of birth and death. The pursuit of moksha is inseparable from the question of how one can break the cycle of karma. If every action plants seeds for future results, how is it possible to step outside this law? The answer lies in transformation of consciousness. Actions performed without attachment, without desire for their fruits, are said to no longer bind the soul. This is often called karma yoga, the path of selfless action. Similarly, meditation and knowledge cultivate awareness that dissolves ignorance, while devotion channels energy toward the divine, transcending the ego. By purifying the inner life and aligning with truth, one ceases to generate binding karma, and the accumulated karmic seeds eventually burn away, allowing liberation to dawn. It is important to note that moksha is not portrayed as an external reward given by a deity, but as a state that arises when conditions of ignorance and bondage are removed. Just as sunlight is revealed when clouds disperse, liberation is seen as the natural state of the self, obscured only by the coverings of illusion. This perspective shifts the focus from attaining something new to realizing what has always been present. The self is not bound by nature, but it appears bound due to identification with the body, mind, and the cycle of desires. Moksha is the moment of awakening, when this identification is dissolved and the self abides in its original freedom. The journey toward moksha is often described as long and demanding, stretching across many lifetimes. Just as karmic patterns accumulate over countless births, so too does the effort to purify and transcend them. Yet many traditions emphasize that liberation is possible at any moment, for it depends on a shift in awareness rather than the mere passage of time. The teachings stress that one need not wait endlessly but can awaken here and now if the conditions of realization are ripe. In this sense, moksha is both the culmination of a long journey and the timeless truth available in every present moment, waiting to be recognized. From the standpoint of daily life, the idea of moksha may seem remote, yet it has practical implications. It encourages living with detachment, not in the sense of apathy, but in freedom from clinging to outcomes. It encourages compassion, recognizing that all beings are caught in samsara, and that kindness helps loosen the bonds of suffering. It encourages discipline of mind and heart, for only through clarity and integrity can one move toward liberation. In this way, moksha is not only an abstract metaphysical goal, but a guiding principle for how to live meaningfully within the world, while seeking freedom beyond it. Another dimension of moksha is the question of identity. If liberation means release from rebirth, then what happens to the individuality we cling to? Some traditions suggest that individuality dissolves into the universal, like a drop merging into the ocean. Others describe the liberated soul as retaining its unique essence, but free from limitation. The exact nature of moksha remains mysterious, perhaps intentionally so, for it points to a reality beyond conceptual thought. What unites the teachings is the conviction that this state is one of ultimate fulfillment, where the restless search that drives life in samsara finds its resolution in peace and knowledge. The contrast between samsara and moksha illustrates the profound human longing for freedom. Samsara is characterized by impermanence, where joys fade and sorrows repeat, yet beings cling to it out of ignorance and attachment. Moksha represents the resolution of this restlessness, the discovery of a state not subject to change or loss. This vision of freedom speaks to the deepest yearning of the human spirit, not merely for temporary relief, but for lasting truth. It is the recognition that freedom from rebirth is not about rejecting life, but about realizing the eternal foundation that underlies all life. In the end, moksha is less about escaping existence and more about awakening to its essence. It is the end of ignorance, the end of binding karma, and the end of the cycle of birth and death, not because life ceases, but because the self is no longer identified with the transient forms that come and go. To ask whether moksha is freedom from rebirth is to inquire into the deepest purpose of human existence. The answer offered by the great traditions is yes. Moksha is freedom not only from rebirth, but from all forms of bondage, revealing the self's true nature as boundless, eternal, and free. Part 5. Time and Karma. Do past deeds ever truly expire? The question of whether past deeds ever truly expire touches one of the most profound aspects of karma. Since karma is often described as a law of cause and effect, it seems natural to assume that every action produces a consequence that must eventually come to fruition. But does this mean that all deeds, however small or ancient, remain active in the background until their effects are felt? According to traditional teachings, karmic impressions are like seeds planted in the soil of the subtle body. Some sprout quickly, others remain dormant for years or lifetimes, waiting for the right conditions to arise. In this way, karma suggests that time does not erase deeds, but stores them until their fruit is ready to ripen. The metaphor of seeds is central to understanding the endurance of karma. Just as seeds can lie dormant beneath the earth for decades until rain or sunlight awakens them, karmic seeds remain within the subtle body until circumstances make them sprout. A kind action may bear fruit as happiness in this life, or it may remain unseen until a future lifetime creates the conditions for it to unfold. Similarly, harmful actions may not result in immediate suffering, but may reappear later when circumstances align. This framework suggests that time alone does not dissolve karma. Instead, karma remains bound within the stream of consciousness, unaffected by the passage of years, until awareness, transformation, or conditions release its energy. The endurance of karmic patterns explains why people sometimes experience events that appear unconnected to their current actions. Illnesses, sudden misfortunes, or unexpected blessings may arise without clear causes in this life. From a karmic perspective, these are the results of seeds planted long ago, sometimes in previous lifetimes, now finding their moment of expression. This understanding reframes life's apparent randomness, suggesting that unseen patterns are always at play. While not all traditions insist on a strict one-to-one correlation between deeds and outcomes, the idea that past actions linger until expressed provides a sense of continuity that makes the unfolding of life intelligible. Yet while karma is enduring, it is not necessarily eternal. Just as seeds can eventually rot if not given the right conditions, karmic imprints may lose their potency when deprived of the conditions needed for them to ripen. Spiritual traditions often describe practices such as meditation, selfless service, or devotion as ways of burning or neutralizing karmic seeds. In these teachings, awareness acts like fire, consuming the latent energy of karma before it manifests into experience. Thus, while deeds do not simply vanish with time, they can be transformed or rendered inert through conscious effort. Liberation is possible because karma, while powerful, is not indestructible. Another dimension of the endurance of karma is its relation to intention. Not all actions carry the same weight. A deed done with selfishness or malice leaves a stronger imprint than one done lightly or without awareness. This means that some karmic seeds may fade naturally over time if they are weak, while others may endure with greater force, awaiting their moment to express. The moral quality of the action, combined with the intensity of intention, determines how deeply it becomes inscribed within the subtle body. In this way, karma is not merely mechanical, but intimately tied to consciousness itself, reflecting the inner state that gave rise to the deed. The question of whether karma expires also invites reflection on the nature of time itself. In ordinary perception, time is linear, moving from past to present to future. But in spiritual philosophy, time is often seen as cyclical, reflecting the eternal return of events in patterns of cause and effect. From this perspective, karma does not simply expire with the passage of linear time because it is woven into the cycles themselves. It remains part of the wheel of samsara, reappearing again and again until awareness breaks the cycle. This cyclical view makes karma less about history and more about patterns repeating until they are consciously resolved. Still, the possibility of transcending karma is central to the spiritual path. Practices of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom are said to loosen the grip of past deeds. When one becomes deeply aware, actions no longer generate binding seeds, and existing seeds may lose their ability to bear fruit. This is why liberation is described as freedom not only from future karma, but from the accumulated weight of the past. In this view, while deeds do not simply expire on their own, they can be dissolved through transformation of consciousness. The self no longer identifies with the karmic story, and the energy of past deeds loses its binding power. An interesting aspect of karma is the distinction between stored karma and active karma. Stored karma refers to the countless seeds waiting to ripen, while active karma refers to the particular seeds manifesting in the present life. This distinction highlights that not all karma is equally pressing. Some seeds may remain dormant for centuries, while others are flowering now. Spiritual traditions emphasize that while one cannot always control which seeds ripen, one can influence how they are met and what new seeds are planted in response. Thus, even though past deeds endure, their ultimate effect depends on the present choices that shape their unfolding. Karma's persistence raises another question. Does forgiveness or grace have the power to erase it? Some traditions affirm that divine grace can dissolve even the heaviest karmic burdens, not by negating the law of cause and effect, but by transforming the soul so deeply that past seeds lose their potency. Forgiveness, both of oneself and others, is also said to weaken karmic ties. In this sense, while karma may not expire automatically with time, it can be transcended through compassion, awareness, and connection to the divine. The endurance of deeds does not mean condemnation, but rather an invitation to transformation. The persistence of karma also underscores the importance of conscious living. If every action has the potential to leave an imprint that lingers beyond this life, then each moment carries profound significance. This recognition encourages mindfulness in speech, thought, and action, cultivating seeds of kindness and wisdom rather than anger or ignorance. By living in this way, one not only shapes the present but also reshapes the unseen future, reducing the weight of karmic burdens yet to ripen. Far from being fatalistic, this perspective empowers individuals to influence the trajectory of their journey, ensuring that what endures from the past supports growth rather than suffering. Some modern interpreters view karma symbolically rather than literally, seeing it as a way to describe the persistence of psychological and social patterns. From this view, deeds never expire in the sense that habits, traumas, or cultural influences continue to shape lives until consciously addressed. Just as unresolved emotional wounds can influence behavior decades later, so too do karmic impressions shape existence until they are healed or transformed. Whether one interprets karma metaphysically or psychologically, the principle remains the same. Actions echo beyond their moment, and time alone does not silence them. Resolution comes only through awareness and intentional transformation. Ultimately, the endurance of karma reflects the depth of interconnectedness that defines existence. No action is isolated. Each choice sends ripples into the fabric of reality, influencing the future in ways seen and unseen. These ripples may last far beyond the moment, shaping the destiny of individuals and collectives alike. Yet this endurance is not cause for despair, but an invitation to live more consciously, knowing that every act of kindness, every moment of clarity, contributes to the greater unfolding of life. While past deeds may not simply expire with time, they can be transformed, and it is through this transformation that true freedom becomes possible. Thus, the question of whether past deeds ever expire leads to a deeper understanding of karma itself. Part 7. Karma in Daily Life. The unseen consequences of every action. Karma is often thought of as an abstract principle, something belonging to the realm of philosophy or distant spiritual traditions, yet its essence is lived out in daily life. Every thought, word, and deed plants a seed that shapes not only the world around us, but also the inner world of our minds and hearts. These seeds may be invisible in the moment, but over time they ripen into experiences, tendencies, and conditions that influence the quality of our lives. The unseen nature of karma means that its workings are subtle and rarely immediate. But the fact that we may not recognize their effects does not diminish their power. To live with awareness of karma is to recognize that nothing is without consequence. One way karma manifests in daily life is through the shaping of habits. Actions repeated regularly etch grooves in the mind, forming patterns that become harder to change over time. A person who continually reacts with anger finds anger arising more easily, while someone who cultivates patience discovers it comes naturally. These habits are karmic consequences in action, not imposed from outside but self-created. They influence how one experiences the world, often making life feel like a repetition of familiar patterns. By paying attention to small daily choices, we begin to see that karma is not distant or mysterious, but woven into the fabric of our routine behaviors and attitudes. Relationships offer another window into the workings of karma in daily life. The way we treat others inevitably shapes the dynamics we experience in return. A word of kindness can ripple outward, creating warmth and trust, while a careless remark can linger as hurt or resentment. Though we may forget our words quickly, their echoes remain in the hearts of others, influencing the quality of our connections. In this sense, karma is the invisible thread weaving relationships together, building bonds of harmony or discord depending on the seeds we plant. By becoming mindful of how we interact, we participate consciously in the creation of these threads rather than being trapped in cycles of misunderstanding or conflict. Karma also appears in the way we approach work and daily responsibilities. Actions done with integrity and sincerity tend to create a sense of fulfillment, even if external rewards are delayed, while actions performed carelessly or dishonestly plant seeds of dissatisfaction. A student who studies diligently may not see immediate results, but the effort accumulates into knowledge and skill that later serve them well. Similarly, in professional life, the unseen consequences of consistent effort often blossom into opportunities, trust, and respect. Karma teaches that even when results are not visible, every effort leaves an imprint, shaping the future in ways that eventually become clear. The mental realm is just as subject to karma as the physical. Thoughts may seem fleeting, but they create grooves in the mind that influence perception and mood. Repeated patterns of worry, envy, or self-criticism generate suffering that may feel imposed from outside, but is actually self-sustained. Conversely, cultivating gratitude, compassion, or equanimity creates a mental environment that fosters resilience and joy. This is why many traditions emphasize mindfulness. By becoming aware of thoughts, we begin to recognize the karmic seeds they are planting. In this way, daily life becomes a field of practice, where every thought is an opportunity to create harmony or perpetuate confusion. Even seemingly trivial actions carry unseen consequences. Choosing to litter on the street contributes to a broader culture of disregard, while taking the time to care for the environment supports a collective spirit of stewardship. Holding the door for a stranger may appear insignificant, but such small gestures accumulate into patterns of kindness that uplift both giver and receiver. Karma teaches that no action is too small to matter, for each contributes to the web of cause and effect. This perspective transforms daily living into a series of opportunities, where every choice, however minor, participates in shaping the shared world. Karma also operates through the principle of intention. Two people may perform the same outward act, but the karmic weight differs depending on the motivation behind it. Giving money to charity with genuine compassion plants a different seed than giving the same amount out of guilt or desire for recognition. This highlights the subtlety of karma in daily life, where the inner state carries as much weight as the external deed. By examining our motivations, we can refine our actions, ensuring that they arise from sincerity and care rather than from fear or selfishness. Such awareness transforms daily tasks into opportunities for inner growth as well as outer benefit. In family life, the workings of karma are especially clear. Parents. Actions create profound effects on children, not only through direct teaching, but through example. The habits of speech, emotional patterns, and values instilled in the home often reverberate for generations. A harsh or careless word may create wounds that shape a child's self-image, while consistent love and encouragement plant seeds of confidence and resilience. The karmic consequences of family interactions are among the most enduring, reminding us that our influence extends far beyond what we may recognize in the moment. To live with awareness of karma in this sphere is to understand the immense responsibility and opportunity of shaping lives through daily choices. Karma also shapes the inner sense of peace or unrest that people carry. Living dishonestly, even in small ways, creates inner dissonance that cannot be erased simply by external success. Conversely, living with integrity, even when difficult, creates a sense of alignment that fosters peace. This is one of the most immediate ways karma operates in daily life. The quality of our choices is mirrored in the quality of our inner experience. While outer circumstances may take time to reflect karmic patterns, the inner consequences are often immediate, providing a guide for discerning the direction of our actions. The unseen consequences of karma also highlight the interconnectedness of all beings. Our actions do not occur in isolation. They ripple outward, touching lives we may never meet. A decision made in business, politics, or environmental stewardship can affect communities far removed from our awareness. This interconnectedness means that karma is not only personal, but collective. By becoming mindful of the broader consequences of our choices, we begin to see our daily lives as part of a larger tapestry, where individual actions contribute to the destiny of society and the planet. This realization deepens the responsibility of living consciously, knowing that even small actions participate in shaping the collective future. Understanding karma in daily life does not mean living in fear of making mistakes, but rather cultivating mindfulness and compassion. Mistakes are inevitable, but each one provides an opportunity to learn and to plant different seeds for the future. By reflecting on the unseen consequences of past actions, we develop humility and the determination to act with greater wisdom. By recognizing the impact of present choices, we transform daily living into a practice of awakening. Karma thus becomes not only a doctrine of consequences, but a guide for conscious living, encouraging us to create conditions of harmony, kindness, and clarity in every moment. Ultimately, karma in daily life teaches that no action is lost, that every choice contributes to the unfolding of existence. Though the consequences may be unseen or delayed, they are nonetheless real, shaping the patterns of our lives and the lives of others. By living with awareness of this truth, we recognize the profound power carried in every moment. Karma is not distant or abstract, but alive in the smallest gestures, the quietest thoughts, and the most ordinary actions, reminding us that the path to growth and freedom is always present, here and now. Part 8. Western Reincarnation Stories, where India meets Oprah. Reincarnation, long rooted in the philosophical and spiritual traditions of India, began to find a wider audience in the West during the 19th and 20th centuries, when travelers, scholars, and spiritual seekers introduced these ideas to Europe and America. Initially received with skepticism, the concept nevertheless resonated with people looking for alternatives to strict materialism or rigid religious doctrines. Over time, reincarnation became a subject of fascination not only in esoteric circles, but also in mainstream culture. By the late 20th century, discussions of past lives appeared in popular books, television talk shows, and personal testimonies, blending Eastern philosophy with Western storytelling. This meeting of traditions gave rise to a uniquely Western reincarnation narrative, where karma and rebirth were explored alongside psychology, entertainment, and personal healing. One of the most striking elements of reincarnation stories in the West is their personal therapeutic dimension. While in India the emphasis has often been on the cosmic law of karma and the pursuit of liberation from rebirth, Western narratives tend to highlight the way past lives explain current struggles or offer healing for emotional wounds. People speak of fears, traumas, or inexplicable feelings that seem rooted in another lifetime, and the exploration of reincarnation is framed as a way to bring closure or understanding. This shift reflects a cultural difference. Instead of focusing primarily on metaphysical liberation, Western stories often seek to address the psychological needs of the present life, using reincarnation as a tool of personal growth. Past life regression therapy has been one of the most popular methods through which reincarnation entered Western popular imagination. Pioneered by therapists like Brian Weiss, whose book Many Lives, Many Masters became a bestseller, regression therapy uses hypnosis or deep relaxation to guide individuals into recalling supposed past life experiences. These sessions often reveal vivid narratives in which people see themselves living in different eras, experiencing relationships, struggles, or deaths that seem to resonate with their current challenges. Whether or not these memories are literal recollections of past lives, participants often report profound emotional release, healing, or insight. This therapeutic framing of reincarnation transformed it from an exotic philosophy into a practical tool for self-discovery and emotional well-being. The media has also played a powerful role in shaping Western perceptions of reincarnation. Television programs, documentaries, and interviews with celebrities have brought the subject into everyday conversation. Oprah Winfrey's talk show, for example, hosted authors and therapists who discussed past life regression, making the topic accessible to millions. Celebrities who shared their belief in reincarnation helped normalize it as a legitimate subject for public discussion rather than a fringe idea. This blending of entertainment and spirituality created a new space where ancient Indian ideas about rebirth were translated into stories that fit the rhythms of Western culture, emphasizing personal empowerment and healing. Children's accounts of past lives have also contributed to the Western fascination with reincarnation. Researchers like Ian Stevenson of the University of Virginia collected thousands of cases in which young children described details of previous lives with startling accuracy. Some recalled names, places, or events later verified by historical records. While skeptics argue for psychological or cultural explanations, these stories remain compelling, particularly because children often speak with innocence and lack of agenda. Books and television specials highlighting these cases have fascinated audiences, bridging the gap between scholarly research and popular storytelling. In this way, reincarnation moved beyond esoteric circles into the realm of serious investigation and public wonder. Western reincarnation stories also often intersect with ideas of soulmates and karmic relationships. Many people report feeling instant connections or conflicts with others that they interpret as evidence of past life bonds. These narratives emphasize that relationships carry over across lifetimes, providing opportunities for growth, healing, or completion of unfinished lessons. This perspective has been embraced by popular culture, where novels, films, and television shows portray lovers separated and reunited across centuries. In these stories, reincarnation becomes a romantic framework, turning the ancient doctrine into a tale of eternal love or destined partnership. This adaptation reflects how Western culture reinterprets reincarnation through its own values, focusing on personal meaning and emotional connection. At the same time, reincarnation in the West has often been blended with New Age spirituality, which combines elements of Eastern thought, psychology, and alternative healing. In this context, reincarnation is not only about the continuation of life, but also about the soul's journey through different lessons. People may describe their current life purpose as resolving unfinished karma, or learning specific virtues such as patience, courage, or compassion. Workshops, books, and spiritual communities explore these themes, offering individuals ways to interpret challenges as part of a larger spiritual curriculum. This approach mirrors the Indian emphasis on karmic growth, but adapts it to a Western framework focused on self-realization and personal development. Western fascination with reincarnation also reflects a broader dissatisfaction with traditional religious narratives. For many, the idea of one single life followed by eternal heaven or hell feels too limiting or unjust. Reincarnation provides an alternative that seems both fairer and more expansive, a system in which each soul has multiple chances to grow, learn, and evolve. It answers questions about why people are born into such different circumstances, and why some talents or challenges seem to appear without explanation. This appeal to fairness and opportunity has helped reincarnation gain traction among those who may not adopt Eastern religions fully, but find comfort in their ideas. Skepticism, of course, remains strong in Western contexts, where scientific materialism dominates public discourse. Critics argue that past life memories may be products of imagination, suggestion, or subconscious processes rather than evidence of actual reincarnation. Yet even skeptics acknowledge that the experiences can have genuine therapeutic value, helping people resolve trauma or gain insight into their inner lives. This pragmatic approach allows reincarnation stories to retain cultural influence, even among those who do not take them literally. The blending of belief and skepticism reflects the Western tendency to interpret reincarnation less as a strict metaphysical truth and more as a symbolic or psychological tool. The blending of Indian philosophy with Western culture creates a unique tension. On one hand, reincarnation is an ancient doctrine deeply tied to karma, dharma, and the quest for liberation from samsara. On the other, in Western contexts, it is often stripped of its larger framework and adapted into stories of love, healing, or entertainment. This simplification can risk losing the depth of the original teaching, yet it also ensures its accessibility, allowing millions to engage with the idea in ways that feel relevant to their lives. The meeting of India and Oprah symbolizes this transformation, where a concept once rooted in rigorous spiritual traditions now circulates freely in living rooms, therapy sessions, and popular culture. Ultimately, Western reincarnation stories reveal both the universality and adaptability of the human search for meaning. Whether framed as evidence of karmic justice, as therapeutic tools, or as romantic tales, they reflect a deep intuition that life cannot be confined to a single span of years. They show how ideas travel across cultures, reshaping themselves in response to new needs while retaining their essence. Part 10. The Law of Karma in Modern Ethics. Ancient Idea, New Relevance. The law of karma, developed in the spiritual traditions of India, offers a vision of cause and effect that extends beyond immediate circumstances and into the moral fabric of existence. While historically tied to metaphysical ideas of rebirth and liberation, karma has found renewed relevance in the modern world as a framework for ethics. People may no longer always think of karma in terms of multiple lifetimes, yet the principle that actions carry unseen consequences resonates strongly in a global society facing complex moral choices. In this sense, karma can be viewed less as a religious belief and more as a universal law of responsibility, urging us to consider how every choice shapes both personal lives and the collective destiny of humanity. One way karma finds relevance in modern ethics is through the growing recognition of interconnectedness. Globalization, climate change, and digital communication have revealed that individual actions ripple outward, affecting people across the planet. A decision to consume certain products influences workers, ecosystems, and economies far beyond one's immediate surroundings. This interconnected reality mirrors the karmic principle that no action is isolated, that everything is bound together in a web of consequences. By understanding life in this way, ethics in the modern world becomes less about rigid rules and more about recognizing the long chains of impact our choices create. Karma thus expands moral responsibility beyond the visible and immediate. Environmental ethics provides one of the clearest illustrations of karmic principles applied today. Human actions, from deforestation to pollution, have long-term effects that may not manifest until generations later. The law of karma emphasizes that consequences do not simply vanish with time, echoing the environmental insight that damage to the earth may take decades or centuries to unfold. Planting seeds of harm leads to suffering, while planting seeds of care creates flourishing for future generations. This alignment between karmic thinking and environmental responsibility encourages a view of ethics that extends beyond the present self and moment, urging individuals and societies to consider the well-being of the planet as part of their moral duty. Modern discussions of social justice also reveal the relevance of karma. Structural inequalities and collective injustices can be seen as the fruits of past actions carried over generations, much like collective karma in traditional thought. Discrimination, exploitation, and historical violence create ripples that persist in social systems, shaping the lives of those who inherit them. While these injustices are not individual karmic punishments, They resemble the karmic principle that actions have enduring effects. Recognizing this allows modern ethics to address the long shadows of history with compassion and accountability. Just as karmic teachings emphasize transforming patterns through conscious action, so too can societies work toward healing by confronting the consequences of their past. Karma also speaks to the ethics of technology, an area where consequences often appear unforeseen or delayed. Advances in artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and digital surveillance raise questions about long-term impacts that may not be visible at the moment of creation. The karmic principle reminds us that actions driven by short-term gain, without awareness of deeper consequences, can bind us to unintended suffering. By applying karmic awareness, technologists and policymakers are encouraged to consider not just immediate benefits, but the larger ripple effects on privacy, dignity, and human flourishing. This deeper vision of responsibility helps temper innovation with wisdom. On a personal level, karma provides an ethical guide that transcends cultural and religious boundaries. In modern life, where moral frameworks are often fragmented, the idea that every action plants seeds for future experience offers a simple yet profound guide for conduct. Acts of kindness, integrity, and honesty may not bring immediate rewards, but they shape inner peace and future opportunities. Conversely, dishonesty, selfishness, or cruelty leave traces that eventually return in some form. This understanding encourages individuals to act with mindfulness, recognizing that even when no one is watching, the unseen consequences of actions still shape character and destiny. In workplaces, karmic thinking can inspire ethical responsibility in business and economics. Decisions made in pursuit of profit often carry hidden consequences for workers, consumers, and the environment. The law of karma highlights that exploitation, even if unseen at first, creates suffering that eventually returns, whether through social unrest, ecological collapse, or loss of trust. By contrast, businesses that operate with fairness, transparency, and sustainability plant seeds for long-term flourishing. This perspective reframes success not as short-term accumulation, but as the creation of conditions that benefit all participants in the system. Karma thus encourages modern ethics to move beyond profit alone toward a vision of shared well-being. Another important dimension of karma in modern ethics is its focus on intention. In contemporary debates, much emphasis is placed on outcomes, but karma emphasizes that the quality of intention is equally important. An action may produce positive results, yet still carry negative karmic weight if driven by greed, fear, or selfishness. Conversely, an act that fails in its immediate goal may still carry beneficial karmic influence if motivated by compassion. This focus on inner motivation resonates with psychological insights about integrity and authenticity, reminding us that ethical living is not only about what we do, but also about why we do it. In modern times, where appearances and outcomes often dominate, karma restores attention to the inner dimension of morality. Karma also offers a counterbalance to the sense of futility that can arise in facing global problems. When challenges such as climate change or inequality appear overwhelming, individuals may feel their actions make no difference. The karmic law reminds us that every action matters, no matter how small, because each contributes to the unfolding web of cause and effect. Planting even a single seed of kindness, justice, or care helps shift the balance. In this way, karma empowers individuals to see themselves as agents of change, reinforcing the idea that ethical action is always significant, regardless of scale. The law of karma also has implications for restorative justice. Traditional legal systems often emphasize punishment, But karma suggests that true transformation arises through recognition, accountability, and healing. When individuals confront the consequences of their actions, they begin to understand the patterns they have created and are given the chance to change. This mirrors modern approaches to justice that emphasize rehabilitation, dialogue, and reconciliation rather than retribution alone. By integrating karmic principles, modern ethics can foster systems that prioritize growth, responsibility, and restoration over cycles of harm and punishment. Critics may argue that karma risks becoming fatalistic, encouraging people to accept suffering as deserved consequences rather than striving to change. Yet the deeper teachings of karma emphasize agency and transformation, not passive acceptance. Karma is not fixed fate, but a dynamic interplay between past seeds and present choices. This understanding aligns with modern ethics, which stresses that while the past cannot be undone, the future can always be reshaped. Every moment carries the opportunity to act with awareness and compassion, altering the trajectory of both personal and collective destiny. In this sense, karma supports an ethic of responsibility and empowerment rather than resignation. In contemporary secular culture, karma is often used as a metaphor rather than a literal doctrine of rebirth, yet even in this symbolic form it carries profound ethical weight. To say what goes around comes around is to affirm that actions create consequences beyond our control. Whether understood spiritually or psychologically, the principle encourages accountability and discourages selfishness. It resonates with modern values of sustainability, fairness, and empathy, making ancient teachings about karma newly relevant in addressing the ethical challenges of today. By adapting its insights, we can create a moral vision that is both practical and profound. Thus, the law of karma, though ancient, remains deeply relevant to modern ethics. It reminds us that every action carries unseen consequences, that intentions matter as much as results, and that interconnectedness binds us all in a web of responsibility. In a world facing unprecedented challenges, karma offers both a warning and a hope. The warning that harmful choices will inevitably bear bitter fruit, and the hope that conscious, compassionate action can transform the future. As an ethical guide, karma bridges the wisdom of the past with the needs of the present, showing that ancient truths still illuminate the path toward a more just and mindful world.